So in our space, you have people who just want to work just because they don't have anything to do, and then they fall into hospitality.
They have a kitchen, they have everything, but they decided not to provide breakfast anymore because when the items are there, the employees went up, so the tea items are gone, everything. Yeah, and I mean, for me, theft in this space is like huge. I mean, someone carries a fork, someone carries a knife, someone carries a towel. So imagine everybody taking something on a daily basis.
The theft is something that is dominant. You cannot avoid it, but then you can put in certain standards or restrictions or things like that to be able to guard.
Realize that so the international brands are able to deal with diversity, different people coming in, while the local brands, you may be at a hotel for 2 weeks and you may have like just 3 options of breakfast to choose from on a daily basis.
I would prefer that to have maybe constant revenue than to just leave the land fallow until maybe I have maybe 2 events a month. You know, that will not be able to meet my cost and expenses. So when you meet challenges will come. Once you run a property, there could be light outs, there could be storms, so maybe your Wi-Fi will not work. Find ways, complement the guests.
All right, Bless, welcome to the ABC show.
Thank you, good to be here.
All right, so I've known Bless for over 2 years, and I know that he's one of the best when it comes to the hospitality sector, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Sure, likewise.
All right, so mostly, I'll ask my guests, how did you grow up? How did that influence the things you do now?
Thank you. So, in the Ghanaian context, typical growing up as a child, you know, I had some experience in selling, you know, to support the family. Grew up in a modest family, one of 3 children. I had, you know, a good education from private schools and way up until I think the SS. Growing up, I really loved science. So I involved myself in science activities. I think way till the JHS, then I realized that, you know, I was interested in business. However, entering into the SS, because of financial constraints, I couldn't move to do my first choice school, which was business. So I went to do science. I loved it, loved the experience I had from it. Then I went on to Polytechnic.
Okay.
And then I read laboratory technology. So I worked as a technician for about close to 5 years.
Okay.
Whilst there, I still, you know, felt the need to, you know, get into business.
Okay.
Especially in sales. So oftentimes people will come to me at my workplace trying to sell 1 or 2 things to me. I always thought this could be done this way, you know, just to convince me, because convincing myself is tough, you know. So I realized that, you know, I needed something, you know, away from the science that I was used to.
Okay.
So an opportunity came. I went into medical sales. So that was my first sales experience.
Okay.
I was there for 2 years. And then I remember during that time, I went to pick up one of my distributors who had come from the UK. Then it was at Movenpick. So I saw the way, you know, the hotel staff and things were going about their work and all that, you know, and I just told myself, I wish to be here one day. Like, you know, I love the setting, the way they were caring for people, assisting people and all that. And then I think, fortunately, that same year in December, they posted an ad for a sales executive.
Okay.
I applied, and then hopefully I was selected. So that's how my hospitality journey began.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's quite a story.
Yeah.
So in this, with your first experience, I mean, when you went into your first job in the hospitality space, how was it? Was it different from selling medical equipment and then trying to sell spaces and experience to people?
Yes. It was quite different. First off, I remember asking my boss then that I never knew the hotel industry was, you know, that's huge, especially with the different departments, HR, finance, sales and marketing and all that. You know, okay. I always thought it was just the reception, you know, trying to help people in and out. So, but then the good thing was that I'm a quick learner. So it wasn't so difficult for me. I was able to adapt, and then they had a very good environment for learning. So that also helped me to be able to, jump straight into the business. So within 6 months of it, I was able to know the key, terms and all that in the hotel industry specifically, because the passion was there.
Okay.
So that's how come I grew quickly from that area.
I like how you brought the word passion in, because it looks like you had a passion for selling.
Yes.
And then there was an opportunity for you to work to apply that passion.
Exactly.
And I also know that in the space, the hospitality space, it comes with a lot of training. So almost anytime there's any change that you get a chance to go for trainings and all that. What trends did you observe if you've worked with the local hospitality space and international ones? What would you say kept them very different, the international ones very different from the local one?
Okay. So the international brands have more like international collaboration and strategy. So it's quite easy for them to replicate things that have happened, elsewhere in Europe and the Americas here. So first of all, if you compare an international brand to a local brand that is not up there yet, you realize that the international brands had even sales and marketing budgets, whereas some of the local brands don't. So anytime you talk about maybe marketing expense and things like that, they don't actually see the need for it. But these international brands pump in a lot in human development, as well as, budget for marketing, so that people are aware of their brand and then they can be able to use the services. So I think that the various differences matter, whereas also international brand, because they also have a reputation to keep.
Okay.
It is also important for them that they adhere to certain policies and strategies like that. The local brands usually handled by an individual. Sometimes decisions are made on individual basis. So those are some of the difference. But then, of course, there are some good local brands that have made it. Yeah.
Sure. So I want us to dive a bit into the smaller accommodation space or hospitality spaces. So you realize that a lot of people are moving into private facilities where people can book either online, or you can actually walk in and book. That seems to be springing up. How have you seen the space also? Have you worked in that space also?
Okay. I think that it has its positive sides and then the negative sides. We saw the onset of Airbnb, especially because that's what drove this. How do you call it?
Small accommodation
spaces. But then, yes, it has its positives. Then you could find accommodation anywhere you want. You could easily integrate into the community you find yourself with such spaces. The costs of the cost of providing you that service was also cheaper. So it also meant that your rates were quite affordable, compared to the main hotel brands. And so that gives some kind of volume. And then it also helped a lot of people who were more budget oriented, to be able to also travel and come to the country. But then again, when you have the mainstream hotels, they also have that comfortability, that security that you want. They also provide you the service, 24-hour services and stuff like that. And then they also have huge demand, especially for employees, because you need to have the best service. So everything has its positive sides and then negative sides.
That's true. So usually when I have, say, a team coming down to Ghana and I need to use a service or use a provider, my worry is not only about room, worry about the variety of meals that are available mainly for breakfast, especially when they are not Ghanaians, they are not Africans. So even when they are Africans, they are from other parts of Africa, East Africa and other, you want to make sure that you are satisfying them. You realize that, so the international brands are able to deal with diversity, different people coming in, whilst the local brands, you may be at a hotel for 2 weeks and you may have like just 3 options of breakfast to choose from on a daily basis. What is it that local brands don't aim at getting different people coming in, or they just don't know that they need to do certain things to be out there?
Okay. I think I'll put it two ways. Sometimes your target markets also count.
Okay.
And then the other way too is you trying to improve on your services. So the international brands, one thing with it is it's a constant improvement.
Okay.
So you get to hear, listen to guest feedback. You try to make things better. You look at your competition, you see what they are doing,
Okay.
and then you also up your game so that you can maintain your clients or your guests, and then probably increase that volume as well. But for the local brands and the small ones, the small Airbnbs, usually they don't look at competition. They're looking at maybe the profit that they can get, and so they provide you the item based on what they can offer, because
Okay.
then they feel that because of the rates they are offering you, you don't have a choice. But I think that it will be healthy if they also looked at, some competition and made some varieties to make people feel at home. Because as you rightly said, it's not just about accommodation. It's about the food. It's about the wellness, the experience, and everything together.
That's true. Now, I wanted to dive a bit into the investing in Airbnb and then the mini accommodation spaces. What factors would you say one should consider? I mean, if you are going outside Accra, maybe up the mountains in Ibri, or probably close to Adan, what should you really consider if you decide to put up a space like this?
Okay. I think oftentimes investors just put up a space and then just want to sell it, but then you should have some sort of a target market. If people who you are expecting to come to your end, will they be family oriented? Will they have kids? Are they there just for fun? You have to look at all those things. Are they there for business? So if they are there for maybe leisure, for instance, then you need to be able to provide probably your kitchenette, so that they can cook their own meals. You need to be able to provide a swimming pool, so that they can have some relaxation, maybe some home theaters and all that, so that they can entertain themselves, or be able to have some small parties here and there. And then as an Airbnb or a small property like that too, I would encourage that you look at what you can offer the customer in terms of flexibility.
Okay.
The more flexible you are, the more you can attract such customer base. Yeah.
All right. I was way back somewhere 2016. I was in a hotel somewhere in the northern parts of Ghana. They have a kitchen, they have everything, but they decided not to provide breakfast anymore because when the items are there, the employees went up, so the tea items are gone, everything. Yeah. And I mean, for me, theft in this space is huge. I mean, someone carries a fork, someone carries a knife, someone carries a towel. So imagine everybody taking something on a daily basis. What are some of the challenges that you have seen in this sector? I mean, aside theft, you can touch on theft also.
Okay, sure. So there are quite a number of challenges, and one thing is orienting the staff about the importance of keeping, your resources as how they are, so that you can generate enough revenue. Because sometimes if they don't understand that every bit of resources you have count towards the main goal, then it becomes a challenge. The theft is something that is dominant. You cannot avoid it, but then you can put in certain, standards or restrictions or things like that to be able to guard those things. More like making sure there's security, making sure that there's also cameras around. That also helps. Then the other challenges is also more about employee turnover. So in our space, you have people who just want to work just because they don't have anything to do, and then they fall into hospitality. When it happens like that, any available opportunity that comes, they move to the next,
Okay.
So then it becomes a vacuum. So it's always important that even though some people come and fill those spaces or vacuums for you, as an institution, you train them, let them understand that you are developing them for a higher role. Because there are people in hospitality who don't understand that you can move on from becoming maybe, let's say, a gardener to maybe executive chef, or maybe a general manager. But if you make those paths clear for them and you guide them, they are able to improve on those services as well, or those needs as well.
I smiled when you mentioned cameras and security because I mean we have these things, but then
Yeah, but
the
still,
challenges
yeah,
are still there.
yeah, yeah,
I was told a story of a brand that had to sack someone because they caught that person stealing a pen.
yes,
And if
yes.
you are outside, you think that as a mere story. Why will you sack someone? So imagine someone every day, 2 or 3 people take a pen away, and
Then yes, you just because it's cost. You know,
yeah.
hospitality or hotel, to be specific, is cost.
Yeah.
How you manage, you can make enough revenue, but if you don't manage the cost, you still not make profit. So usually when you look at it that way, then you now become very stringent on those things. So I think that it's you also have to punish those you have to punish, just so that others would also realize that this is not right.
Yeah.
And then they can keep on doing the right things.
All right. So with anybody out there looking at investing into a small space, either Airbnb or some weekend getaway space, what are the must-haves that will attract customers? So if I'm looking at people outside, I mean in the diaspora, or people within Accra who are looking for leisure outside Accra, or what should you have? What should be there? What should I consider if I'm putting up a space like that?
Okay. I think first you'd have to consider security, because if they're traveling in, they want to feel secured. So security is important wherever you find yourself, the locality, how safe is it and everything. But aside that too, you have to also invest in maybe multi-rooms.
Okay.
So instead of putting up standard single rooms, you could do maybe 2-3 bedrooms with a common living space, because usually when they come in groups like that, they prefer that, so that all the team will be there and then they can have their fun, do things together. So that is also very important. Then you also have to look at maybe a space for events. You know, some small events like parties and things like that. You have to create that environment for them, so it makes it quite flexible. You also have to look at that tourist attractions around that particular area, because that will also drive the volumes to you. So if you have that, probably you can even do some partnerships with them, so it makes it easy for you to, you know, charge them and then provide that service as an extra to that.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So if I'm looking at going into an investment of this sort, what are some of the mistakes you think that I should try very hard and avoid?
So I think that most investors, especially in the hotel and real estate, sometimes they focus on the profits. They wish, oh, I've built and I'm expecting to have my profit within a year. And that's one of the biggest red flags. You have to know that it takes time to build your customer base and all that. So that is very key. You also have to look at the type of facilities you provide. If you are looking at probably maybe a big hotel for business, there are certain business essentials that you need to provide for people. That must be available. Good internet, good spaces for them, maybe a sitting sofa, a very nice business unit where they can go and have their things sorted out and printed. If you're looking at maybe leisure, then you also have to consider what will make them have fun. So some people would consider going to maybe close to the seashore or a river to build a property there, so that they can provide kayaking, etc. experiences too. So all those things have to be considered. Then you also have to look at it. Oftentimes, I've also seen people invest in resorts, for example, not considering the fact that you will not have business clients coming often, and then they build a resort and then add conferencing facility, so you have to factor all those things. Are you going to focus much on the conferencing, or you want to just focus on the room? So those dynamics would help you to properly know how to invest. Then I also say that if you are investing in a property in Accra, it's quite easy, because Accra, there's lots of properties, there's the demand, the numbers. If you're going outside Accra, then you need to consider a lot. Would you go and build 50 rooms outside Accra? Because then maybe every month, once a month, there's a funeral in town, or there's maybe a wedding in town. That's when you can get your full accommodation. Or would you rather build an event space, so that you can capture that market, and then maybe some small number of rooms for people so that you can maximize your revenue. So all those things has to be considered. And I always say that it's also key that you consider your competitors, the other properties around. Look at them critically, see what they lack, and then you can incorporate that into yours, and then I'm sure that you'll be able to make it.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing some stuff around the Eastern region. I realize that a lot of people, when they return, they want to move into communities. So they are owning properties on the hill, in the valley, good weather. Yes. And a lot of people they appreciate spaces that integrate culture.
Exactly.
And when you usually across, so for me, when I travel outside Ghana, East Africa, or even within West Africa, I realize that a lot of people integrate their culture into their room settings. There are some facilities in Ghana that try that, especially those that have the resorts try, like they go that close to integrating that, but we don't really see that in our space here in Ghana. Is it because some of the brands are so big that they have standards that they have to meet, or is expensive trying to integrate culture into such spaces?
Okay. I think it's a choice, a matter of choice. And if you go on that direction, you have to own it. And so most of the international brands we have here would definitely replicate European style. So you go to the spaces, you see how the spaces look, and all that. But then if you look at the cultural aspects, because Ghana is a tourist destination, right? So people want to come back and learn something about Ghana, from our food, from our spaces, from our art and everything. I'll cite an example like the African Regent Hotel. So that African Regent Hotel has spaces with artwork of Ghanaian, artists and all that. Good local food available and all that. And they've been doing this for so many years.
Yeah.
So that is one of such a brand that is focused on maybe the Afropolitan market. So blending what we have as Africans or Ghanaians and then adding the European standards,
Okay.
So if you just have the theme that you want to go with, then you can go with it. I've seen brands like Moxie, which is part of the Marriott brand, which is focused on the young adults, so their spaces are created with, arts, hip hop, etc. So it makes it quite convenient for them to find themselves in those spaces. So you just have to own it. It's not easy. The market is not easy, but then you have to.
That's true. That's true. I mean, also, let's bring that down also into the smaller spaces. So investing into a 10-room, a 5-room space, and depending on who you're targeting. I think a lot of destination, would we call it destination tourism or more of leisure is coming up. So you have people who want to travel somewhere, maybe Akosombo, Ebri, go have fun over the weekend and come. And I'm just looking at how we could also integrate culture into these kinds of spaces and how we will attract the people. So like you said, the target market, if you are targeting people from the diaspora, then you need to integrate some of these things.
Yes.
And what has been your experience with these smaller spaces in relation to this?
Okay. I think that the first important thing is probably when you get there, the arts and then the setup, the room setups and everything. There's a property in the Volta region somewhere. I've forgotten the Meet Me There, for instance.
I know Meet Me There.
Nice property. They use sustainable products for, their room setups. So that is what they are focused on.
Yeah.
Now, other things to it, sometimes you may not even have the Ghanaian feel or the African feel in your property, but then you can incorporate it. So for instance, you have your expatriates coming in and you can provide maybe a cultural night for them. You could arrange maybe a trip to probably the local chief's house, or maybe the most popular women venture in the community, maybe if it's share butter, something, so that they have that experience. Once they are able to have that experience, they carry something away with them. So when they do that, no matter where they find themselves, the name of Ghana keeps coming up, because then they've come here to experience something. We don't want to give them spaces that they are used
Used
to,
to.
and then when they come here, they have the same, experience.
Yeah.
So that's cut and co. But the little that we can do, and especially introduce them even to our gastronomy, our food, they love it so much. The bankus, the fufu, our languages, they try to learn it.
Yeah.
Our
What we
clothes,
wear,
yes, what we
the
wear,
beads.
exactly. So
Yeah.
they carry all those things along, and then it makes a very good impact on the country.
I like the part when you said probably take tours, travel to a community, a local chief, a space, and all that.
Yeah.
I experienced that in East Africa.
Okay.
It was good. I haven't been to any event in Ghana where we are done and the hotel says we're taking you here for a tour. Is it that we are not deliberate about it, or the guests do not have time for that, or is it all part of packages that people are selling?
I would say it's not part of the packages, because sometimes if you have a special package and you inform the guests, they are aware. There are some, especially when they come for business, they have some part of fun, so they do some tours. So I think that it is the hotel spaces or the hotel management that has to find some packages that they can, try to sell to them. Oftentimes too, because providing those stores cost money.
Okay.
Businesses are not willing to spend the extra. But then if you look at the total volume of business that they are providing, you could do that as a surprise to them, and it will leave a long-lasting effect on their lives. Yeah.
So my East African experience it was in Kenya, where we had a cultural night. The chef was the one playing the keyboard. The manager was singing. Everybody you saw in the day playing an active role was involving, and everybody had to dance. So you are there, you are brought into the center, you are guided to dance. Yeah. And it was an experience. And I haven't traveled this much in Ghana, but I haven't, most of the place I've been to is either personal or friend, yet I don't see us coming in. So that for me looks like an opportunity that the hospitality sector can explore.
That's a good idea.
Yes. How do we even do this in terms of partnerships? We have spaces or people organizing events that can partner with these spaces and say, okay, if you have 200 people, you have 30 people, we can provide them a tour to this space, and this will come at a cost, and this is our cost. That's something that I think it's partnerships can.
It's possible, because the thing is, the hotel or property has their core business, which is your accommodation, conference, restaurant, usually these three. Now we have tour agencies, so the hotel will be good to partner with such tour agencies. Have some very good rates and curated activities, and then this is done into packages, so it makes it easy and then becomes very seamless. So once the clients books for that, then they know that your partner will also come in to do whatever they are supposed to do. But oftentimes it's very also critical to look at the partnership, because then if the partner disappoints you, it means your brand is affected, So those things that must also be looked into before such partnerships are signed off.
All right. I know you are big on sales and marketing and training. How would I say relevant? Relevant seems to be me underestimating how key is training in the hospitality space, whether it is small, a big brand, or a brand that is trying to get there.
Okay. Key training is I would say the first essential activity that has to be in the hotel. You could have the most beautiful spaces, all the technologies and everything, but the moment the guest steps into your property, there's problem. The guest journey basically starts from, when they have the idea or plan to start, to make a booking. So that experience, everything comes with training. So whoever your reservationist is, your receptionist is, all of them have to be trained. And the training has to come at a standard. So the hotel needs to draw up maybe an SOP or a standard for training. How many times, for instance, the phone rings, you pick it up, how you respond to the guest. if a guest has some objections, how you respond to them. So those constant training. When we come to the restaurant, for instance, how the waiter is supposed to serve, from which angle they are supposed to serve, are they supposed to talk, all those things. And it's quite, the issue is it's easy to train, but oftentimes we don't budget for it. So then it becomes very difficult. Yes. So if we budget for it and we get resource people who can assist, or internal managers who have had experience over time, and they train and impact, you see that there's constant improvement in service that we provide to people. So you see such on our reviews, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, and other platforms. You see it on reviews. People will come and tell you, oh, I engaged with, let me use myself at Bless, and Bless was fantastic. He assisted me. Then the same person might engage with another person, and then there's problem. So I think that it's essential that we do constant training so that people get or keep getting reminded of what their purpose is to the whole hotel agenda.
All right. Yeah. Events is also one thing that is springing up. So a lot of event spaces are coming up, and you may have even the huge brands or the big brands having spaces for events. And for me, I see event space as one that I can use to protect my land. For me, that's how I see event space. So even though it makes money, the land is still there. I have a small space in the corner, and then the land is there, and I can protect it. But event space are expensive to book, especially in Accra. You go to a place like 15K, 20K, just to book. Sometimes it comes with nothing. Yeah. Just a space. How is this also coming up? Is it that the brands are particular about leaving space for events beyond the conferencing? So maybe an outdoor event space and all that. Is it something that you plan for, or the need to increase revenue brings us up?
I'll say that some properties plan for it. Then they make the maximum benefit out of it. Some is just the need to make extra revenue. So then they attach it to it. But the thing is, traditionally for hotels, if you want to do an event, the hotel has to provide you with the food and beverage. And so sometimes the cost becomes an issue. And so this client will be like, okay, I don't want your food, but can I bring my own food? So this standalone event facilities will charge you just for the space. Then you bring in your own caterer, food and everything. So I'm sure that's why it has some kind of cost or expense to it, but then I also am of the view that there could be some kind of bundle, pricing. So for instance, why would I just have an event space and rent it out for 15,000? Maybe I can partner with a good caterer, add on maybe each person, maybe
even if it's 500, even 50 cedis.
50 cedis for each person. So at the end of the day, you come to me, I provide you food and everything, and I still make my revenue. I would prefer that to have maybe constant revenue than to just leave the land fallow until maybe I have maybe 2 events a month. That would not be able to meet my cost and expenses. So you just have to be strategic how you want it to be, and then also how the event spaces. Some have also done it and maybe placed a dome, just so that if there are rains and everything, or you want to do some extra decors and things like that. So you just have to find your ground and then know what exactly you want, either revenue, or probably you just want to have people keep coming to you. So,
all right. We are getting closer to how do we ensure that we leave a lasting memory in the minds of our guests, give them an experience that they don't forget about us as a brand? So be it a small brand, I have a 10 room somewhere. How do I ensure that I leave my name in the minds of my guests?
Okay. I think the guest journey is important, as I mentioned earlier. The first onset when they get in touch with you, either by email, phone, text message, WhatsApp, how you respond to them. I always say that your responsiveness is key. So I would quickly respond to my clients, so that I assure them that I am available for them. You would have that some properties, you send messages or you send emails, it will take a long while before they get back to you, So that experience, just from the onset when they decide, I need to stay in this particular property, give them a good experience. Now, when they are checking in on their arrival, give them a good experience. And then also, I always say, whatever you promise them, provide. Do not say, oh, we'll provide you this, and the time comes and it's not there. Also, when you meet challenges will come. Once you run a property, there could be light outs, there could be storms, so maybe your Wi-Fi will not work. Find ways to what? Complement the guests. Yeah. Assure them that, oh, this has happened, but this is what I can do for you. And that once you are always there for them, they will keep coming to you.
All right. Well, how does the future of hospitality look like, especially for young ones, people like us who want to invest in this field? Small accommodation, Airbnb, and my village somewhere. How does the future look like?
I'll say the future is bright. Population numbers are increasing. Once the economy is also ripe for investment, it means that you'd have people moving within the country and people coming out from outside the country. So the future is bright. And so the only thing is that you have to invest right. If you feel you cannot invest by yourself and you can partner, it's very important. I like the fact that you mentioned you want to do a small property and focus on customer service. Perfect. If you can do that, that's perfect. If you can do a huge property, that's also perfect. So you just have to place yourself well in the community. And one thing I also realize is that brands that are able to fuse themselves with the community, they last longer. Okay. So meaning that you employ from the community, you train from the community, you buy food produce from the community, at least some from the community. So you provide some sort of economic stability for the people in the community. That helps you. And then these people become your referral points as well. So anytime somebody, even if they don't have you online or whatever it is, anytime somebody needs, they are the ones to recommend, because they know that at the end of the day,
buy from them.
You can buy from there. So it helps. Yeah.
All right. Anybody looking at going into the space, you came in as a scientist, as our colleague would say, I'm a scientist.
Yes.
As moving from the science background, now in sales and marketing in the hospitality space, what would you say is a path that anybody looking into being like you should take?
Okay. I think you have to be a people's person. You also have to try to assist people. If I put it that you solve problems, you may not be able to solve all problems, but try to assist people. Okay. If you are that kind of person, and then you are also ready for criticism, then you are good to go. And then there's also the need for constant learning. It's very important, because in the hospitality industry, it's ever revolving. So if you don't put yourself in there to learn, they'll just pass by you. So I think that should be able to help. And then the other key factor is relationships.
Okay.
Whether it's your internal relationships or with your customers, is very, very important. Keep the good relationship, because oftentimes I've seen people move from one property to the other and they carry people along. It's because of the relationship.
That's true.
Yes.
So I know you do trainings and all that. Yes. You've been on the show. Anybody looking at going into the space, what kind of services do you provide? What kind of trainings do you do? And what are you out there for? If anybody wants to reach you, what service do you provide on the side, aside having your main 8 to 5 job?
Okay. So most of the time is the core of the sales and marketing. So if you're looking forward to training as a salesperson or a marketing person, it's general. But then the principles in each sector differs. Yes, yeah. So that training is available. We also provide marketing services, revenue generation services. If you want events, as to handle your events for you, we also do that for you. And then also, if concierge services available, we provide that also. Yeah.
Okay. I know we tried doing something while we were in school. We went up the hills to get a space
I remember.
For an event.
I remember. It will surely come
off. It will
off.
surely happen.
Yeah, it will surely come off.
Charlie. So let me say a big thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I know that we'll work together because it's a space that I'm looking at going into on a very small scale. But I know that we'll continue to work together and talk together. So thank you very much, Bless, for coming on. I wish you the best of the year, and I look forward to talking to you again as the show grows.
Thank you very much. I hope that the next time I come, your property is ready.
Amen. 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 All right. Sorry.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you.